My name is Micaela Nunez, and I'll be speaking about the exposure to crystalline silica and its association with silicosis throughout my presentation. A quick little introduction. What is silicosis? Silicosis is an irremediable fibrotic pulmonary disease that develops over time with the inhalation of silica dust. These particles are trapped in the lung tissue, causing inflammation, resulting in a lower potential to breathe in air. The common factors that trigger this type of disease is a particle which is found in stone, glass, rock, gravel, bricks, and clay. The main routes of exposure include inhalation, skin, and eye contact. We specifically see this disease on workers engaged in jobs like construction, mining, sanding, and even in the glass industry. Some more general information. The common symptoms include cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, and fatigue. Treatments are offered to support the individual's quality of life, but there is no cure for silicosis simply because lung damage cannot be reversed. The treatments include oxygen therapy, bronchodilator methods, and antibiotics to fight off any possible chest infections. In severe cases of this disease, lung transplants can also be an option to better the life of the individual. The methodology used for my analytic paper. The first source being from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention using the NIOSH Manual of Analytic Methods, which is a collection of sampling and analytic methods for workplace exposure, monitoring contaminants, and workplace air. This method is the most accurate and includes sampling and measurement of silica levels within work areas, demonstrated accurate levels of flow rates, sample stability techniques, and the range studied. Levels of exposure were sampled and proven with filtered redeposition. With this type of method, reports are sent out and we get to see the measurement of the levels, the sampling, the flow rates. They all come in a report that focuses on that range that is being studied. The second study method is from the Journal of Occupational Medicine and Toxicology, which includes density mapping, a way to show where points may be concentrated in a certain area, as well as globally analyzing the scientific efforts of productivity correlating to the levels of silicosis globally. The study method provides the audience with maps and the numbers of scientific institutions engaged with the disease as years go by. A third method used is from the National Library of Medicine, which is historically related. The source mentions the history of silicosis and how it has been an important chapter in the history of environmental and occupational health. The article examines the trends of X-radiology within time since the mid-1900s and how it has evolved. Quick research and discussion in regards to the exposure of crystalline silica and the effects it has on people in the industry. So when workers are exposed to these types of particles, the lung tissue reacts by developing fibrotic nodules and scarring around the trapped particles. According to the American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine, there is an estimated death rate of 200 to 300 individuals per year, which is pretty big for this type of disease, considering that there is a lot of people in like construction and the glass industry. Studies using the Manual of Analytical Methods have shown a collection of samples which provide us with accurate statistical information backing up our findings from the exposure in the industry. I'd like to mention that there are two types of silicosis, acute and chronic. Acute silicosis involves different mechanisms like injury and other high levels of exposure. Chronic silicosis is associated with chronic inflammation with the alveoli. It is the most common form of silicosis and the diagnosis requires radiography, which is a bit different from acute silicosis. Preventive measures and solutions to minimize the rate of silicosis. It is critical for employers in large corporations to consider the health of their people, especially when it comes to these intense labor jobs. These methods are all likely similar, but some specialize heavier in certain aspects compared to other methods like coal and amorphous when it comes to the NIOSH method 7602. It's quite similar to the previous methods like method ID 142. They all focus on certain aspects some heavier than others, but they all contribute to the preventive measures that we need to take in order to minimize the rates of silicosis. The CDC recommends workers to stay current and up to date in safety protocols to reduce silica crystalline exposure. These include using wet methods where dust is created, isolation of work areas using enclosures, as well as using respiratory protection when dust protocols cannot limit silica in the environment. This includes masks, different clothing, silicosis and how it has evolved with time. Some historical studies have shown that during the 1900s, an increase in deaths was attracting the attention of the healthcare field. And this was specifically because of the mining. There was a lot of mines and mine workers during the 1900s. Studies and comparisons done in Britain have shown the pulmonary disorders like bronchitis, tuberculosis, pneumonia, they remain more frequent in urbanized societies. Studies using density equalizing procedures were used to assess both quantitative and qualitative characteristics of the outputs of silicosis. The map figures of the study from the Journal of Occupational Medicine show that the United States of America held the highest H index at 58, followed by the United Kingdom and Canada, both ranked at 28. For the people that don't know, the H index is a metric for evaluating the cumulative impact of an author's scholarly performance at a certain point of time. So at that certain point of time, the index was 58. Some key points to conclude my presentation. Scientific efforts focusing on geographical changes, analytical methods, and historical comparisons have shown the alliance between crystalline silica and silicosis. Specifically in areas like construction, glass, and mining are heavily affected by the particles that are trapped in the lung tissue. Greater risk of pulmonary diseases like lung cancer, tuberculosis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and kidney disease are some of the health consequences of this irreversible disease, which is a reason why we should take into consideration the preventive measures, what we should wear, in order to keep ourselves with safety.